We'll start in a couple of minutes, Dr. Yelena.
Yes, of course.
Dear students, where are your friends? I can see only 17 of them here. Good evening, sir. Dr. Ramola. Dr. Yelena, we have our registrar, Professor Dr. Ramola, with us today.
Great.
Registrar, sir, can you hear me?
I can hear you, but you permit me my video. Something is.
Oh, is it Lalit? Can you please help?
सर मैंने कर दिया।
वीडियो नहीं आ रहा है।
मैं आता हूँ सर आपके पास।
अच्छा। Yes, very good evening.
Now it is there. Good
Good
evening,
evening.
sir. Dr. Ramola, we have Dr. Yelena Prokhrova with us today. She will be delivering a lecture on managing the change. And Dr. Yelena, we have our Honorable Registrar Saab with us today, Professor Dr. R.C. Ramola, sir.
Yes. Nice to meet you.
And thank you very much, madam, for joining and being as a guest expert speaker in the topic managing the change. So on behalf of the university, I welcome you to this talk. And naturally, the topic is very relevant in today's environment. If we see the changes in technology, the changes in dynamics of the world, the war is going on everywhere. So these changes is affecting naturally the business. So what I see is, because I am from the technology side, so I know that the disruptive technologies nowadays, the AI, generative AI, and the lot of technology based on these are changing the totally the business of the world. And naturally, somewhere it is helping, somewhere it is disruptive also. So how to manage the communication, the IT, how to manage the commitment with the business, and how to change the whole business with relevant to the technology is a challenge nowadays. So these are the things, and I think you will be pouring these all the topics in this in your topic, and it is very relevant and very important, particularly the students who are doing their management courses programs in our university. And I'm very thankful that Dr. Raghavendra and Dr. Shantanu Roy, they have invited you on the very relevant topic. And my best wishes, and thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to speak on this occasion. Thank you, man. Thank you, Raghavendra.
Thank you, Dr. Ramola. Thank you for your words of wisdom and sharing these nice words with us. Now, may I request Professor Dr. Shantanu Roy to please share a few words with us. Dr. Roy, are you there?
There, but I don't have my video on. That is, said the host has stopped it. I don't know what is the problem.
Lalit, can we fix it?
Okay, sir.
Dr. Roy, I think now you can.
Yeah,
fine,
now
that's
I can.
perfect.
Yes. Yeah, so of course it must be morning there in your place in Ukraine. This is
afternoon. Yes.
this is afternoon here in our place. So yeah,
It is half afternoon.
it is half afternoon even there. Okay, so yeah, it's quite. In fact, it's going to be good evening from here. Then in that case, so good evening from India and good evening from IBS Dehradun, and welcome to the. And we all welcome you to deliver this session on managing the change, as our Honorable Registrar Sir has already welcomed you. And this is a very important dimension. The change is happening every minute of our life. What used to happen before COVID, COVID changed the entire way of world is doing business. And the wars which are happening across the world and different things that are happening. So it is important that we take our role very seriously in this and understand the meaning of the term managing the change. Because unless in business scenario, unless you can comprehend how the change is going to manifest itself and how can we prepare ourselves to meet this challenge, we'll be left at our doorstep. So it's a very interesting and a very topical issue and very relevant for today's time. So we're very thankful to you to take up this issue and deliver the talk to our students. And I'm sure they'll be immensely benefited by this talk of yours. Thank you very much. And we welcome you again on this platform. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Roy.
Thank you very much.
And I'm pleased to share that Dr. Yelena Prokhorova is the Associate Professor and she is the Deputy Head of the Department of Management at the Kyiv National Economic University, Ukraine. And I'm really thankful, Dr. Yelena, that you could spare some time despite of being this difficult time in your country. I'm sure you are the best person to tell us about the change, how to manage the change, how to adapt oneself with the change. So without wasting much of the time, over to you, Dr. Yelena.
Yes, thank you very much. First of all, I'm grateful to Dr. Raghvendra because he initiated this project of virtual exchange between our universities, and he always pushes me to make this exchange better and better. And dear colleagues, thank you very much for your introduction. You emphasized the actuality of this topic. Thank you, and maybe I'll start. Let me share the screen. Do you see my screen now?
Yes, it is visible.
And let me try. Do you see the next slide?
Yes, it is. It is changing. It is changing.
Yes, thank you very much. So let me start. Today's topic is about managing the change. Yes, of course, there are a lot of changes in our life, and my topic is focused on how to manage change in organization, in business organization. And one of the most maybe important problems how to manage change in organization, it is about managing resistance to change, because people, employees may realize that changes are necessary, they are for the better for our organization, but as living individuals, living persons, each employee, each person don't want to change his life, the order of things, and so on. And first of all, we will start from the theoretical and methodical background of change management. And first of all, let's start from the definition. Very often when we ask, please give us definition, what is change? And very often when people answer this question, they say maybe the change is the process of changing something or someone. So the change is change and so on. If we will look for the definition, what is change? As usual, it is defined as the process or the act when someone or some things are different, makes different. When we move from point A to point B, or maybe we introduce different technologies, different products, different procedures, rules, and so on, so on. So change itself, it is a very complex process and the result of this process. Very often, maybe in the most of all issues, we may operate with strategic change, the change which is caused by strategy implementation. But last years, we faced a lot of global changes in global environment, which affects each business organization too. COVID, as you mentioned, dear colleagues, professors, and also in my country, it is war nowadays, and it is more huge change and crisis, and so on. But we have to manage each change in each organization. And let me tell you, discuss some well-known models of change management process. This model is very simple, but it works. It was developed in the middle of the 20th century by Dr. Kurt Lewin. He is a psychologist, medical doctor, and at first time he formulated these stages of change process for the medicine, for his patients. But then, each organization, business organization, company consists of people, and in order to manage people's behavior, we may use these steps of change process. Very simple model. The first step of change process is unfreeze, as Dr. Lewin formulated it. What does it mean? What have to be unfreezed? First of all, we have to unfreeze the mind of employees. We have to create such situation when each employee have to realize that changes are necessary for our organization, and it is not other way to survive and to be better in our business. So the first step, we have to change the mind or unfreeze the mind, and we have to prepare all employees for the future change process. The second stage, it is change itself. It is the movement from the previous situation and stage to the next position and situation in business, when some things have to be different in the future. And when we come from the previous stage to the final stage, we have to refreeze this situation. We have to refreeze procedures, technologies, behavior, organizational structure, and so on. We have to refreeze all situation in order to be effective in this new state of the company, of the business. Here you may see different types of change, classification by Harvard Business School. They identified 3 types of changes. developmental, transitional, and transformational change. What is the difference between these different types of change? The most simple situation, and it is simple from the point of view of managing this process, developmental change. In fact, it is about evolutionary development, not revolutionary, but evolutionary, very slow and very well manageable process when each company during its functioning improves all things, technologies, processes which it has and manage. The transitional type of change, in fact, it illustrates the Kurt Lewin's stages of change process. When we have the starting point, then we move and we have the new final different point of things. What is the main difference between transitional and transformational changes? In both cases, companies introduce something new in their activities, but difference is in the case of transitional case change. It is a new state for this company which introduces changes, but it is not a new situation at all. It is an example of benchmarking process, maybe, when we know that other companies in our industry or in other industries, they introduced some changes, some new technologies, maybe IT products, and they are better in this situation. And we have to repeat their success, and we have to introduce new state in our company, but it is not a new state at all. And the difference of transformational change, it is in fact about companies pioneers, which introduce something new, which is new at all in the whole world. They introduce some new maybe technologies and new IT products or systems, and so on, so on. And in fact, nobody knows will it be for the better, or maybe it will the end of company functioning. So it is a very risky process, but from another point of view, it may be very effective and profitable. And of course, from the point of view of managing change process, it is more simple and comfortable for managers to manage developmental changes, and more maybe complex process to manage transitional change. And about managing transformational change, yes, it is a challenge for company managers. And next few slides, you may find in this table the situation from the management point of view at every stage of change process, and at every stage of changes implementation. What are the reasons why employees may be disturbed and worried, and what are the main tasks of managers, how to manage better, successfully this process, how to manage people and manage resistance to change, and what actions may be made by company managers. It is very popular and widespread situation when it is not clear information from company management that we have to introduce some changes and some things have to be happened in the company, but some parts, small pieces of information are available for employees, and when it is not enough information about the future actions, as usual, employees are worried, they disturb because they don't know what will be in the future in their company, what will be with their employment, their functions, tasks in the company, and so on. And from the point of view of managers, it is very important to manage this information at this first stage before changes implemented. And you see in the last column, it is very important to give positive information to employees, positive examples, why we have to introduce something new in our organization and what will be better for our organization and for all employees at the end of this change process. The next step of change process, when company management confirms that yes, of course, we have a plan, we have to implement some changes, and what are the tasks and acts of company managers at this stage in order to manage employees, to manage their behavior, and to manage maybe possible resistance to change. You see, yes, of course, it is very important to show the best cases of companies which have the same experience and the positive results of changes implementation. Very important at this stage to show the first positive results of our change process, and so on. So we have to make all our best in order to manage resistance to change. And finally, when the event took place, when we implemented some changes in our organization, we have to manage the process of refreeze. We have to implement new processes, new technologies, new rules, procedures in our organization. And yes, of course, we have to show all the positive results of changes implementation in organization in order employees to see that yes, of course, we have positive results. Our efforts were very effective, and we have to improve the situation in the future, and we have to refreeze these gained results of company activities. Sorry. Yes. I showed you the 3 stages change process formulated by Kurt Lewin. There were a lot of other authors who tried to develop this 3-step model to make it maybe more modern, better, and so on. Well-known publication, which was business bestseller, maybe at the beginning of the 21st century, Transforming the Organization by Kelly and Guerrier. In fact, they used these 3 steps change process model by Kurt Lewin, but they developed this process. And here is the title of the book. You may find Reframing, the first stage, which is the same as Unfreeze by Kurt Lewin. Then the process of movement. It is a 2-step process in this model, restructuring and revitalizing. And the final step of refreeze by Lewin, it is renewing of the organization, company, and people. And this picture illustration at the title of the book, why it is used here. And there are a lot of duplications of this picture. The idea when managers compare organizations, business organizations with living organisms, it is not the new idea. It is well-known life cycle theory of company, and these authors they tried to compare the development of human organism with the development and the life cycle of organization, and how to manage changes at different stages of organizations and people's life cycle. At this table, you may find a more detailed description of each stage of change process by Kelly and Guerrier. The first step, it is reframing or unfreeze. We said that the main content of unfreeze, we have to unfreeze the mind. You see at this description, it is about mental energy, feel goals, and feel commitment. We have to affect our employees to show them the better goals in the future, and commitment is very important at this process. Then when we begin this movement process from the old state to the future new state, we have to move. It is about restructuring. If it is restructuring, it is about skeleton, muscular system, and cardiovascular system. And you see, we may be proud by this comparison. Economic model, it is the same as cardiovascular system in human being organism. Then the next step after restructuring, but it is again the movement process to the new stage in change process, revitalizing. It is about nervous system. You see, informational technologies are the same, are compared with nervous system in human being organism, heart and reproductive system. Why reproductive system? Maybe when we have some spin-offs, startups during our movement, so it is the same as reproductive system in living organisms. And the final step, when we have to refreeze the new situation, it is about reward system, about organizational development, and so on. So you see, it is more modern. It is some bit more detailed and developed model of change process, but it is very close to the first model: refreeze, movement, and then unfreeze, movement, and refreeze. And as I announced, a very big problem from the point of view of management, each change process, it is management resistance to change, because each employee may realize that changes are for the better, but there are a lot of possible reasons, individual, personal resistance to change. Some of these reasons of individual resistance to change you may see at this slide, at this list. Yes, of course, it is not the whole list. There may be a lot of additional reasons of individual resistance to change, but for each employee, for each individual person in organization, these reasons may be very important, very strong, and the task of managers is to manage this resistance to change. And also, there are not only individual reasons of resistance to change. You also may find the list, not full list, but maybe main reasons of collective resistance to change. Collective resistance to change, each organization, each group of people have a lot of some people in their organization, and very often the individual and collective reasons of resistance to change may be the same. They may be compared. But when we have individual resistance to change, it is more simple to manage this process. It is more simple to speak, to communicate with one employee, to ask about his personal reasons and make some decisions how to manage, to make lower the rate of this individual resistance to change. When we face the collective resistance to change at the level of group of employees, at the level of department, or maybe the organization as a whole, it's very it's great problem and great challenge for managers to manage this resistance to change, because when group of employees resist the change process, what will be the result? People are worried, people are disturbed, they do not work effectively and productively, because all their thoughts are not about the working tasks and the working process. They only think what will be with them, with their employment, with their salary, with their duties, and so on. And it is a big part of change management, how to manage resistance to change. And if we are managers and we have to manage other people, first of all, we have to try to learn to manage ourselves, our own resistance to change. And this small exercise, which I propose you to think about these questions. What is it about? We have to analyze our own reasons of resistance to change and how we managed this process, how our own behavior changed during this process, and what were the results, how we managed our own resistance to change, and after we realize our personal reasons and personal management of this resistance to change, we may be more prepared in order to understand other people, employees in organization, and maybe we will be more effective and resultive in managing resistance to change in our organization. I may comment this exercise to answer these questions on my personal example from my working practice, employment. It is only as an example. University professors, we are working as usual at contracts, and we have to sign these contracts every 2 or 3 or 5 years. It is different in different cases and organizations. And in my working practice, a few years ago was a situation when my contract ended, and I didn't remember about this because, as usual, human resource department, they have to remind before this situation that it will be the end of your contract. But I don't know why, but nobody reminded me about the end of my contract, and I was shocked when before the new year, at the end of December, I received the document from the management, from Human Resource Department, that I'm fired. I was shocked. I didn't want what to do. The situation was resulted for better for me, not any problems, but I was shocked during few days. And first my reaction was, oh, why Human Resource Department didn't remind me? What is the wrong behavior from their side? They don't do their work as they have to do it. And it was my first reaction. But then I thought about this situation, I analyzed, and I realized that it is a very important question for me about my work, about my employment, about the terms of my contract. And these vital for me questions, I have to control myself. So it is my own life and my own employment. And now I always remember about the terms of my contract. So the main lesson for me from this situation, that you have to control very important things in your life, in your employment, by yourself, and don't wait by something else will think about you and your employment. You may think about, and maybe you may remember the same situations from your living experience, not only about your employment, but the main idea. You have to think how you managed your own resistance to change, how you managed your behavior, how you changed your behavior, what conclusions you made, and then you maybe will be more effective in managing other people. It is a well-known classification of main basic methods how to manage resistance to change, formulated by Igor Antsov. He proposed 4 main methods how to manage resistance to change. The first is coercive. It is recommended to use this method in the case when it is not enough time to use any other methods. And the main advantage of this method is high speed. We may implement very huge changes in a very short period of time. But paradoxically, it is one of the methods of managing resistance to change, but the main disadvantage of this method is high resistance to change. So we have to manage resistance, but disadvantage of this method is high resistance to change. So we have to try to make all our best to try to use other methods of managing resistance to change. The opposite to coercive is adaptive. When we have enough time to manage resistance to change, we have enough time to communicate with our employees, to make some maybe to give some examples and to show the results of the future process. As usual, it helps to lower resistance to change, but one of the limitations it needs more time. When we have no enough time, we have to try another methods of managing resistance to change. A very interesting crisis method of managing resistance to change. When it is the threat of survival to our organization, as usual, all employees understand this situation and make all their best to implement some changes as quickly as possible, and they make a very huge number of tasks of work in a limited period of time. From the point of view of organizational effectiveness, it is very good. But the author, Igor Yantsov, he said that from his experience, it's not recommended to use this method very often, because some managers which were successful in managing resistance to change by crisis method, they try, as usual, they try to use this method in other situation when it is not a real crisis in organization. But this situation is dangerous, because when you very often say that it is crisis, and so on, the crisis may come to your organization. So it is dangerous way, and you have to use it very, very only in the situations when it is really crisis in organization. And finally, the fourth method, which is named managed resistance to change, or it is very often as synonym, it is named method of accordion. Why it is so? In fact, it is the situation when we use all existing methods of managing resistance to change. When we have enough time, we may, as accordion, we may stretch it. When we have limited period of time, we have to shrink this instrument. From the managerial point of view, it is a very complex process, but from another point of view, it is the main managerial work, to work with people, to manage people's behavior, and so on. And another well-known classification of methods or instruments managing resistance to change, proposed by Kotter and Schlesinger. They published well-known article in Harvard Business Review, and this table is taken from this article, and you see they give very detailed information what different approaches or methods may be used at different situations when they are recommended, and may advantages and drawbacks of each of these methods. But I want to put your attention that all of these methods, they all about communication. You have to communicate with your employees, you have to speak with people, you have to show people all the reasons of change process, all the possible desirable future results. And after this communication, you have to maybe resistance to change may be lower after this communication with employees. And this example about two South Korean banks mergement, why it is very interesting example. As usual, mergers and acquisitions, it is a very dramatical stage in the company's history and development. And as usual, there are a lot of different problems in the process of mergers and acquisitions. And one of these set of problems, it is a high resistance to change from the side of employees of those organizations which have to merge or acquire, to be merged or acquired. And McKinsey Quarterly, they published the interview with one of top managers of these South Korean banks about very successful procedure of these two banks merger, and resistance to change was at minimum level. And please read this citation from the interview with this top manager. You see that one of the prerequisites of very successful managing this process of merger and managing resistance to change is communication. Please, let's imagine that top manager personally visited maybe half of all filials, all these departments, and personally talked with employees and described all the reasons, all the tasks of this change process. And after this talks, the resistance to change was minimum. And one additional thing which I have to emphasize, when something is changing in organization, when something new is introduced, as usual, some duties, some working tasks have to be changed for employees, but it is very important to emphasize that some part of work may be the biggest part of day-to-day duties will be unchanged. And this is very important for employees to show this part of work will be changed. Maybe it is new IT system may be introduced in our company, but some tasks are familiar for you, and don't worry, you will have some additional new tasks, but maybe the most of your work will be unchanged. And it is one additional well-known model proposed by Gribinyak about different types of changes and how to manage these different types of changes in organization. In this matrix, according to such factors as period of time in which changes have to be implemented, and the problem's scope, the number of work which have to be made and implemented. There are 4 types of changes. Evolutional changes, which is more simple from the point of view of how to manage this process. Each company improves its work, technologies, procedures, and so on during its work. So it is very, very slow and very maybe comfortable process of evolutional changes. The next type of change process, when you have to implement not very big changes, but in a short period of time. It is a more complex task for managers, but in fact it is the main content of managerial work. And I want to put more attention to these two types of change process. Consistent changes, when we have to implement a big number of work and changes and tasks during a long period of time, and the situation of complex changes when we have to introduce a lot of changes in a very short period of time. And you see these arrows proposed by the author. He said that from his personal experience, he has only few examples when complex changes introduction in organizations were successful, because it is really very complex task, and not each of these complex changes, maybe the most of complex changes, didn't introduce successfully. So the author recommends, if you have a chance to choose what to introduce, complex or consistent changes, it is recommended to introduce consistent changes. When you go step by step, you introduced one small task, then another, and so on, so on, so on. And the last arrow, it is more desirable and more recommended to transform all your consistent changes into more simple from the point of view of management. And the next few slides, few tables, we will compare these consistent and complex changes. Both of them have their pros and cons. What are advantages of complex change? It is a high tempo. We may make a big number of work, of tasks in a very short period of time. As usual, employees, teams are very enthusiastic in their work and work enthusiastically. And you see, with some humor, it is the fascinating process, not boring. But from the management point of view, it is recommended, if it is possible, to transform complex change into consistent change. Why it is so important? Yes, of course, it is less resistance to change, but why it is low resistance to change? What is very important, when you go step by step, introduce one thing, then another, and so on, it is very important that you may see the results of each step of change process. And it is very important from the point of view managing resistance to change. When you may say to your employees, look, we introduced this task and we have these positive results. Then we introduce the next positive results, and so on, so on, so on. The process is manageable and it is easier to coordinate all the works. And vice versa, what are possible disadvantages of consistent and complex change? You see, the disadvantage of consistent change: long time for implementation, and the process may be boring. If you don't want to be boring, you may use complex process of change. And the same reasons which were the benefits of consistent change, they are the disadvantages of complex change. The cause and effect events are not clearly seen because when we introduce at the same time very different tasks and works, and we have some results, maybe positive or negative, it is very hard to analyze which action leads to these positive or negative results. So the main idea, the main conclusion, if you want to be successful in managing change process and managing resistance to change, try to do this process ordered, well organized, and introduce changes step by step. And it is all which I planned to tell you about change process, managing the change today. Thank you so much for your attention.
Students, if you have questions, you can ask. Dr. Yelena perhaps is the best person to answer your questions related to change. Is there any question? Can you unmute yourself?
Yes, sir. मैंने permission open कर दिया.
Okay, Lalit. Thank you. Students, if you have question, you can unmute yourself and you can ask. Okay, meanwhile, they are making up their mind. Let me share one experience what we faced when we introduced the change way back around 15 years back when I was in the industry. So, Dr. Elena, we were, we were a joint venture company. So our British counterpart company, they want us to go for the ISO certification. We did not have by the time the ISO certification. And now suddenly when we decided, okay, fine, let us go and let us make the time-bound timeline. Okay, by this time in this much months, we will go for the ISO 9001 certification. And it requires to document different types of documents to document the process, right? And then we had a lot of resistance from our employees because they were used to manage the data and document the process in different formats. Now suddenly we require them to change. So initially we struggled a lot, and maybe around a month of me forcing our systems on them, new systems on them. Ultimately, I decided to talk to them, as you mentioned very correctly during your lecture, that communication is the key to introduce the change. If you communicate well with your employees, you let them know that what is the objective of this change, why this change is important, and the change is for betterment of them only. Ultimately, if the system will develop into the refined system, the benefit will come to them only. But mostly what I have observed, Dr. Yelena, in most cases, this is not done. The communication is not done properly from the management side, and that leaves the employee into the dark area, gray area. So it creates insecurity among them. And perhaps that is the reason that the majority of the employees, they are not very much welcoming about the changes, especially changes which has not been communicated to them in a transparent way. I think Dr. Roy also would recall a couple of examples because his area is such which witnessed a lot of changes. Dr. Roy.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. Changes do come, and in organizations where I worked earlier, and the world is anyway changing every minute. So, for example, when I remember those days where in Indian banks were done the paper pen way. And for the first time, and I think Dr. Raghavendra will also recall, when we introduced computerization in banking services, which means the banks were not actually internet-based, but just basic computerization. Of course, internet came much later. Even at that time, the employees of the banks, and which were under the control of the unions, all of them were against the move to introduce computerization. Sam Pitroda, if you remember, Dr. Raghavendra was the person who introduced computerization. And during Rajiv Gandhi's prime ministership.
Technical advisor, I think technical or
yes,
IT
technical advisor to the
president,
to
prime
Rajiv
minister.
Gandhi, who was the next prime minister. So when he introduced computerization in banking system, which was a need of the hour because paper and pen, no, things get lost, things can get manipulated, signatures can get manipulated, your figures, accounts get manipulated. So but the employees thought their jobs will go. For the employees, the threat was, I have never worked on computers, and the literacy, computer literacy was very minimal in those days. Now, of course, India is top age in that. But in those days, that was not the case. And they felt that once we introduce, we'll be losing our jobs. And then there was the government took a step that, okay, don't worry, your jobs will not go, but you have to train yourself. And slowly, even the normal guys, no, the bank customers, they are also like, computer mein what is going to be happening? We don't know what is happening on the computer. Can't see the computer screen because it's behind. I mean, you are only in the front of the counter. But they also accepted that it's a much safer way. And now, of course, with the internet, you can check your data. I don't need to go to my bank. I mean, I don't actually hardly ever go to the bank. You can do all your banking operations sitting at your home. So the world has seen a change, and in every stage there is a threat. For example, now with the artificial intelligence and all that, there is actually it has come. Many of the companies, including Google, have have thrown out people. They have lost jobs. So with the new technologies coming, the people who are in the companies, they might feel that they are no longer equipped enough to handle these technologies. So that's a challenge. I mean, technological change and how to equip yourself to make sure that you are fit for the job, and how the company makes sure that you are not threatened. Because psychologically, if you are impacted, your work ethics and your everything will be hampered. So I think Dr. Elena will be both of us will be requesting you to throw it and turn, because change is inevitable. And how do you communicate that change to the employees is very, very critical.
That's very Dr. Elena, it was interesting to listen your views on this change method, unfreezing, change, and then refreeze. That system, Kurt Lewin system, is very unique, and you very nicely explained that. And also about the knowing about the developmental changes, transitional changes, transformational changes. I find this lecture very enriching even to me. So students, if you have, is there any question, students? Okay, I suppose.
Yes, sir.
Oh, please, Ishani, unmute yourself and you can ask.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
You can switch on your webcam also if it allows you.
Yes, sir. I'll try to.
Perfect. You are visible, Ishani.
Good afternoon, ma'am, as per from your side, and good evening as from my side. Ma'am, it was really good listening you, because it was a topic which we all need to learn at our initial stage. Ma'am, I wanted to know what are the key points for us to be a goodwill to our organization in the future, so that we can cope up with the changes and also keep ourselves patient and calm with these changes in the initial stage of our employment.
Yes, thank you very much for your question. Yes, good evening to you, to your side. Yes, it is very complicated question. Why? We have a lot of different theoretical background, and I showed you some of them. But one point is, one case is to know how to do it's theoretically, but when you try to do it in practice, very often for example, if you communicate with some people, it will be better for lowering resistance to change. But some extremely different person may be unmanageable, and you don't know what to do, and all theoretical background doesn't work when you try to communicate and to be persuasive with some person. What is a possible recommendation? Yes, of course, you have to know all theoretical background, but also you have to use your experience and your intuition, and try to find ways how to manage your own resistance to change and how to manage other person. And you know, many years ago when I studied in Canada, and it was my first experience in case method, and when we discussed one case about one very different, unusual employee in the group of employees, it was a humor from one of my classmates that how to manage the situation with this employee. And he proposed, let's kill him. It will be better for all. I don't recommend you to this to use this method, but yes, of course, managerial work, it is hard work, and you have to have a theoretical background, but you also have to use all your maybe personal patience and emotional intelligence, and so on, so on. Thank you very much. Very, very actual question.
Thank you, ma'am. I'll keep the points in my mind.
Students, any other? If you want to ask question, please unmute yourself. Okay, I think we also have crossed the time limit. It is 5 already. So let us wind up the session and let me propose the formal vote of thanks. Friends, it's a pleasure for me to propose a formal vote of thanks to our Honorable Vice Chancellor, sir, whom I find always very approachable and very welcoming towards such initiatives. And he is one among the person who is instrumental and motivating force for us to carry on this memorandum of understanding signed between the two universities. I am also thankful to our Registrar Sahab, Professor Dr. R.C. Ramola, who has spared time in the beginning to share his words of wisdom with us. My sincere appreciation and thanks to Dr. Shantanu Roy, Director IBS. I find him that he was there throughout the session. So it is always encouraging that if somebody, some of your authority is listening to you and throughout the session, he remains present. My appreciation to Dr. Neha Tomar, particularly because she is the faculty who has coordinated it with the students. So thank you very much, Neha. I also appreciate and communicate my sincere thanks to the students for sparing time to attend this lecture. I'm sure they must have find this lecture very enriching themselves, and it must be very helpful for them to adjust themselves with the changes, whatever they are coming across in their personal and professional arena. I also thank the IT team because without absence and without support and cooperation and active participation of IT team, such kind of virtual exchanges are almost impossible to carry on. Last but not the least, the most important, in fact, my sincere thanks to Dr. Yelena Prokhrova to spare time from her busy schedule. I understand that your life out there is a little different than it used to be usually in the past. But I really thank you, Dr. Yelena Prokhrova, for taking up the association between the two universities at a different level. I see that in the previous year also, we have a lot of exchanges virtually, and this year also we are going really great. It will be continued from our side, and I expect the same from you. So thank you very much, Dr. Yelena, to share your views, very valuable views on the managing the change. Change perhaps is the most important thing to understand to all of us, not only the students, but even for me, for all of us, because change is the only constant. So we have to be tuned up to adjusting ourselves with the change, may it be technological, may it be economic, may it be social, may it be political. Thank you very much, Dr. Yelena. Thank you very much, everyone, for patient listening and active participation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Dr. Raghvendra, for your initiative and for your managing this process. Thank you. It's a
Pleasure.
honor for me.
Pleasure. Thank you very much, Dr. Yelena. We will connect maybe next week soon. I'll drop you the message and I'll coordinate that. Thank you.